Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me. This is Joanna. Today I wanted to show you how to create this really neat pop-up card. And this one was inspired by Jennifer Maguire and I absolutely love it. And most of all, I love the simplicity of it. And although it may not look that simple, you will see how simple it actually is. Well, let's get started with the inside panel. And it is 4 1/4 by 7 1/2 piece of white cardstock that is scored at 2. So you have 5 1/2 and then you have the 2-inch flap. I already stamped the image, actually images. I stamped the image for the inside and also for the deer and the tree that are going to go on the pop-up flap. So let's start coloring. I'm going to use the dye inks, Old Olive and Soft Suede. I like how vibrant they are. I'm going to do some sponging with the Distress Oxides, but for the coloring, I'm just going to use these inks. So I have a little bit of water already here, and I'm going to add a little bit to the green, and let's start coloring. And absolutely love coloring with the inks. It's just so fast and they are so vibrant. I absolutely love it. So there's the mountains, and we're going to add some brown to it in just a second. Just add a little bit of green here. There's a meadow. Alright, there's a meadow. I think there might be some river here. We'll add the blue in just a second. There, and let's add a little bit of brown to some spots. Not necessary, but always adds a nice touch, because there are a lot of mountains that have some brown to it. Alright, and now if we want to do the river, we can just grab a little bit of blue here and a little bit of water. Whew. I just need a little droplet of water, and we can just add a little bit of water here. There. Okay, that's good. Now, what I also did was I cut out the mountains so that I could mask it and sponge. So let's start. Actually, you know what? Let's wait with that for 1 second. Let's finish coloring the rest of the images here, which are the trees and the deer. So really quickly, doesn't take a lot of time. And when you stamp it, you don't have to stamp it in any particular order, because we're going to be cutting these images out. So you don't have to worry about that. I'm sure you can use watercolors for it, or Distress Oxides. Okay, now with the deer, I think I'm gonna try to make the mama, the baby deer, just slightly lighter than mama. So I'm going to dilute the ink a little bit more when I work with it. So there's the mama, beautiful deer. There. And for the baby, let's get some more water in here. We're going to get some more water. And we're going to do the baby just a little bit lighter, so it kind of stands out. Like I said, we're going to cut these things out, so you don't have to worry about the edges really, but for some reason I always feel that I need to stay within the edges. So, and some green at the bottom. So now at this point we are going to be done with the coloring. So we have those two images, and we're going to cut out the deer and cut out the tree. And when you're going to do that, you will see that it's very difficult to cut it out without leaving any white lines. So what I do after I'm done cutting out, I just take a little bit of ink and I just go and on the edges and cover the edges in whatever color that's supposed to be. Okay, and it will be brown here. See, there. Don't have to be, you can even add brown to the trees. I mean, there's always brown in the trees. And here, I think actually these guys are, I think, okay, but just cover the edges. I think it always adds a, it just looks much nicer than the green right there. Okay, so now we are good with that. So what we're going to do right now, let's start sponging. I'm going to mask this, and I'm going to use Distress Oxide peeled paint for the green. So let me get started with that. I love sponging with Distress Oxides. They are so much fun. They apply like butter. It's just so fun. Just really nice, going so smooth. And you want to apply it to the entire cardstock, including the little flap that we have. And you don't want it to be too perfect, because after all, it's never going to be perfect. So what I do is I will grab some brown too. Vintage Photo, that's what I'm using, Vintage Photo here. And I'm just going to add it to the edges just a little bit. So like I said, you don't want it to be too perfect. And if you feel very ambitious, you can just cut out a little piece of paper and maybe create little hills or something like that. Okay, so we're done with that. And I do see that I am missing just a little bit green here. So let me just add the green there. And now we can do the sky. Again, mask it. And I'm going to do my blue, which is a salty ocean. And we're going to do the sky. Again, the blotches are perfectly fine because most of the time you are going to have the darker and lighter spots in the sky, so you're good. Alright, so now I think I'm good. We are good with sponging. I can take my ink pads and put them to the side so that they're not in the way, and we can get moving forward to putting the card together. Let me just clean up this ink right here, because that's going to be a disaster if I touch it. Okay, so we have the deer, we have the tree. Now, one thing that I do want to do still is, because I don't want to bother cutting out the inside of the, in between the legs of the deer, I will use some of the green that I'm using for the meadow, and I will just apply it in between. So when we are going to attach it, it will just look like the meadow that is behind it, and it will not draw your attention. Okay, that's good. So that's one little thing that I like to do. Alright, so now when you look at the card, I use acetate pieces to create the pop-up mechanism, but a lot of people I've seen use regular cardstock, and they would color it, for example in this case the color of the meadow. But I'm using 2 pieces of acetate. One is 4.5 by 1 inch, and I scored it every inch, so at 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you basically are going to fold it on the score lines. Alright, and you are going to be left with this little tiny flap. Well, on that flap, what we're going to do is we are going to attach some tape to it. And we are going to create like a little cube, almost a cube. There you go. So this is what we have, and that's what you want. This is our mechanism, so you kind of work it. You make sure that it's nice and flexible and it keeps its shape. And what we're going to do once you have it is you're going to put tape on three sides, 1, 2, and 3. And with that being said, we're going to remove the tape from all 3 sides. And usually the part that I glued originally just to create this, I keep it at the bottom, but it's entirely up to you. So this is going to be the top where there is no tape. So I'm going to attach one side to my deer. Oh dear. And then I'm going to line up the bottom part. The bottom fold is going to go right here on the crease. And then the rest goes that way. So we have this nice mechanism that we have just created. So when you're going to open the card, it's going to pop out. Okay, so now let's create the smaller one, and the smaller one is 1/2 inch by 2 1/4, and again it's scored every 1/2 inch. So at half, at 1, 1 1/2, and then at 2. And once again, you're going to be left with a little flap, or so I was hoping for. There you go. Where's the flap? There. You're going to be left with a little flap, so you're going to create a little thing like this. And I have it here. And again, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to put tape on 3 sides. And this is going to be to pop up the trees. And the reason why there's a difference in size is because I want the trees to be closer to the meadow. So you have a 3-dimensional effect. So I'm going to attach one side to the trees, leaving the top clear. There's no tape on the top. Once again, I'm going to align the bottom part with my folded edge, and there you go. So here we have our mechanism. So you're going to open it, and voila. Make sure that you use good tape, because I see that my tape was popping up here. Just 1 second. Alright, so now let's do the outside really quick. Now this is the outside. I cut out a circle. Now when you're cutting out the circle, make sure that the circle is at least 2 inches. The bottom of the circle is at least 2 inches from the bottom of the card. And the reason for that is because when you're going to have the flap, you want to make sure that it's not poking through. If you're going to make a circle but too low, the flap is going to show. Trust me, I learned it the hard way. So I cut out the circle, and I also took another circle and I cut out a frame from it. So I used the circle that I originally used and one higher, and I cut out the frame. So for the outside, basically you cut out the circle, you stamp the greeting, and then I have that little frame that I created with the 2 sizes of the circle. So I'm just going to attach the frame to it. You know, you don't even have to do the frame, but for some reason it's just so pretty. It really pops it out. And now we can glue in our inside part. So you do not put the glue on the flap. Of course you know that, but I'm just reminding you because it's an instinct just to want to put glue everywhere. And we are going to line it up and glue it inside. and your card is finished. You have this gorgeous card. Now, I do have some clouds from my previous projects, so I'm going to grab a cloud that I keep on hand, and I'm just going to just throw it in here. Yeah. Of course it has to be popped out because everything is popping, right? So I'm gonna, oh, sorry about that, guys. I'm gonna attach the cloud and we are gonna be done with it, like completely. I'm gonna offset it just a little bit, maybe have space for another cloud if I feel like it, but that's it. Your greeting is gonna go here, or you could stamp nice greeting here too. But look how neat this card is. Wasn't that hard to make? Just so fun. And of course, as I always say, when you make one, make a ton of them at the same time. It's just so much faster. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, my friends. Ta-ta!